once hyped, not very long ago, as the most valuable startup in the world. WeWork is the name of it, and earlier this year, the company was valued at almost $50 billion. The ever-obedient business press often described WeWork as a tech company, but that was never really right. It was actually a real estate operation of sorts. WeWork bought up office space in big cities and then rented it to individuals or small companies. Now, that's fine, I guess, but it's hardly a revolutionary idea, and investors always want more flash. So the CEO of the company, Adam Neumann, posed as a world-transforming CEO, babbled about making himself immortal or becoming the first ever trillionaire, or using WeWork to solve world hunger somehow. When WeWork employees expensed their meals, they were banned from buying meat because climate. Meanwhile, Neumann himself bombed around in a $60 million private jet. It was a ploy, of course, but it worked. WeWork attracted billions of dollars in investment based on its rapid growth. But there was no real growth. In reality, it was always just a bloated office rental company with more expenses than revenue. Neumann, though, made millions by buying up properties and then leasing them to his own company. In other words, WeWork looked a lot like an old-fashioned scam. But here's the most dispiriting part. It worked. SoftBank, one of WeWork's investors, just announced it is paying Neumann $1.7 billion to step down as head of the company and give up his voting rights. For running a sham corporation, Neumann is now a billionaire. His employees? You know the rest of the story. Most of them get nothing. In fact, WeWork has postponed thousands of layoffs because it can't even afford to pay employees a severance package. This new cash infusion from SoftBank won't save jobs. Instead, it will allow the company to fire people. That's infuriating, but it's also a metaphor for the broader finance economy. It's a sham that shafts the country for the benefit of a tiny group of people. This is not sustainable, don't lie to yourself. And someday, when Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez becomes president, you'll know why it happened. In the meantime, Mark Blythe is a professor of political economy at Brown University. We're really happy to have him tonight. So Mark, you've taken a good look at this company. What exactly was the business model here?
It's pretty much as you described, Tucker. So I'm going to fly around and I'm going to go to Los Angeles, New York, London. I'm going to find the most expensive buildings I can. I'm going to get into really long leases and spend a ton of money doing them up in these really cool workspaces. And then I'm going to rent them out on a daily basis to people who can't afford their own office. That was pretty much it.
And
yeah, I know. No, really.
That's worth. So how is that worth billions? I mean, how is that the most overfunded startup of the year, if not decade?
It's the same kind of unicorn Silicon Valley tech babble that we've been suffering for the past decade. It's the same nonsense that brought us Juicero and Theranos and all the rest of it. Apparently the world of work is fundamentally transformed. We're all modular. None of us need to go to work now. We all need a hot desk. And people apparently buy this and chuck billions of dollars at it when it really is just a fantasy.
And a scam, I would say.
It's a scam. Yeah, it's totally a scam.
What's so galling, though, in previous generations, when you were caught running a Ponzi or ripping people off, you were punished. Gold brickers went to jail. This guy walked off with $1.7 billion. How did that happen?
It's a really good question how that happens. It raises questions about where is the board of SoftBank? How can you authorize such a payment? If the guy has basically acquired these as part of a fraud, why are you buying them from him? This is a massive failure, not just of corporate governance, but of the basics of what we understand of capitalism, where risk and reward is balanced, right? If you basically go to a world whereby it's not just winner takes all, it's loser takes everything, regardless of the costs, how can you have faith in that system?
Well, you can't. And it's not just this guy who, and I will give him this, was quite a great actor. I mean, he was a flamboyant character, but Marissa Mayer at Yahoo, who had no discernible personality whatsoever, presided over the implosion of that company's value and walked off with more than $100 million. You see this all the time. How long can this continue?
It can continue until basically investors wake up and smell the coffee. It can continue until politicians recognize there's a fundamental problem here. Capitalism works best, and it does work very well sometimes, when not just risk and reward are balanced, but basic investment decisions made by lots of different people pay off for lots of different people.
Right.
If you have a world in which you've got a handful of people who have so much money they're personally too big to fail, they can fail and fail and fail again and invest in stupid stuff that has no value, that's a problem for the whole society.
And speaking of that problem, what are the chances that WeWork or another failure like WeWork tanks the broader economy?
It could happen. We worry a lot about things like corporate debt and low interest rates. But come on, if you've got an IPO value of 47 billion, let's assume that this one goes through and then they find out it's a fraud. Then what happens if the stock market finds out and everyone starts to dump it? The reverberations could be quite consequential. And as you also note, there's a lot of this stuff around. Let's remember Wells Fargo just a little while ago.
Yeah.
Let's remember all the other things that have been going on in the background. We kind of this stuff gets normalized, and that's really dangerous because that's why people lose faith.
It's true. And also they get radical, and we're gonna get a radical system unless we get this under control. I believe. Professor, it's great to see you tonight. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Well, biological male just